Blog Talk Radio.
He is the last of his kind. All that remains of a once powerful nation. Some think he is a myth. Some believe he is the chosen one, who will bring balance to a world at war. And some will stop at nothing to destroy him.
You don't have to lose your home due to foreclosure. You don't have to worry about child support. You don't have to be in credit card debt. Have no fear. Tarhaka Armana El Bay is here at newdebtelimination.com. Got student loans, child support, mortgages? Contact someone who's got the experience and the knowledge to get you back under God's law. That's Tarhaka Armana El Bay. He's been there, he's done that, and he can prove it. Just give him a call at 904-303-9061. That number again is 904-303-9061. And log on to newdebtelimination.com. That's newdebtelimination.com and get yourself free. Welcome to Moorish Talk Live 100 with your host, Tarhaka Armana El Bay.
All right, everybody. Welcome to Moorish Talk Live 100. I'm your host, Tarhaka Armana El Bay. And tonight, me and my illustrious brother, Dr. Walter Williams, will be dealing with part 2 of racism. He'll be joining me this evening. And we want to get down to the bottom of some of this stuff here. And it appears that he is in the queue. I'm going to open up the phone line and see if we got him here right now. Area code 773, you on the air?
Yes, Brother Tarhaka. Walter Williams is here.
Welcome, Doctor. Welcome in the house. We're glad to have you back again so that we can continue our discussion about this racism thing, because it is quite serious. And it appears that they have flipped the script on us. I was listening to a radio broadcast this morning, and we got this guy that called in. He's a veteran. And he lost his son, and so he considers the football players taking a knee in the stadium as an insult about respecting the flag because of the people that has died about for this country. Well, in my opinion, the man took a knee to protest the murder of young black men in the United States and racism. That's what that is about. It ain't nothing to do with no veteran. So it seems that everybody running with that in order to avoid confronting the real issue, keeping that issue off the table. So what do you think, man?
Well, I think that there are many people out there who is listening to different conversations concerning this matter about Colin Kaepernick, who took a knee during the singing of the Star Spangled Banner. And with that in mind, and with that being said, is that there are many different views out there. Some people say, well, I heard a radio commentator yesterday morning saying that, oh, you shouldn't be mad at Trump, hate Trump, because he knocked Colin Kaepernick, the football player, for not, let's say, saluting the flag and things like that, taking the knee. Well, she's got the wrong attitude towards that. He took the knee to protest police brutality against us Africans in the United States of America. The injustice that has been put upon us by the judiciary system in America. So, you have to take all that in consideration. And he also demonstrated his dislike for, let's say, the judiciary decision that came down in the Trayvon Martin situation, the Quan McDonald situation right here in Chicago, and Michael Brown situation in Ferguson, Missouri. And we can go on and on and on, about why he took that knee. He took the knee, like I said before, to protest police brutality against us Africans living in the United States of America. So people today in our African community, they have different views and opinions about that. But they should learn the facts before they make any statements. Now, you take a lot of Europeans in this country, they take the wrong attitude also, because they're not in our community. They're not seeing and feeling what we feel as an African community in America, and they don't see racism every day like we see it. So you're going to have different opinions, but the main thing is that we Africans have to understand and support Colin Kaepernick in his stance and stand against racism, police brutality, and support him in his effort. And the rest of the NFL players in America, in the Football League, that supports Colin Kaepernick in doing just that. Brother Tarhaka?
Well, I have to agree with you 100%. I don't. It has not come to my mind, not one single time, to look at anything else other than the reason the man took the knee in the first place. I ain't trying to think about no veterans. I ain't trying to think about the singing of the Star Spangled Banner. I'm looking dead at the mistreatment of our people. That's all I see. And for somebody to, in my opinion, even bring it up about standing for the flag and what you did in a war somewhere where you went somewhere else and killed somebody, and so this ain't we had to look at what's going on here, and even Muhammad Ali, he said, well, look, I ain't going in your army.
Correct.
Now, them folks over there ain't never called me a nigga.
That's correct. That's correct.
So, for us to be considering whether somebody got a valid point or not about the veterans that has fought for this country and all of that, that should never even be brought up in this conversation.
Correct.
Based on what it's all about. You know, I'm not trying to let nobody sit here and tell me, well, you know, I was a veteran and I was in the war and I think he was wrong for it. Man, don't tell me nothing about that. Put a real plate on the table. The murder of children by the police. That's what we need to have on the table.
Right. Here is Sister Arnetta is going to join us in this conversation also. And she'll be on with us for a little while. And so she has something to say. I mean, this question that we have that we're bringing up at this very moment. So let me turn this over to Sister Arnetta. My wife, Sister
come on in. Come on in, Mrs. Williams.
Good evening, Brother Tarhaka. How are you?
Good evening. I'm fine.
Okay, that's
you have
wonderful.
The floor.
Yes, just a few comments on this. We know that number 45 is trying to change the conversation. Okay, there's an avoidance out here in terms of not wanting to discuss the issues that we need to discuss relative to racism in this country. Because we know that he is embracing the alt-right, the white supremacists. He's made excuses for them, and he's compared the protesters with the perpetrators. And he has number 45. I'm referring to Trump, I think, as you know. And forgive me because I just cannot call him the P word, all right?
Okay, all right.
Because of the disrespect that he has shown to us and people in general, anybody who's not in the 1%. And really, you could say outside of his family and his little immediate group. So I would say it's an attempt to change the conversation. And unfortunately, there is a segment out here, they only listen to certain news outlets. They're not getting a balanced view. Whatever Fox has to say, Rush Limbaugh, the right wing, that's what they're latching on to. This was never about disrespecting the flag. This is a protest against police brutality. And I am thankful that you're bringing this up because we have to keep it on point when others are trying to redirect what is really happening here. And here we go again. It's so easy to try and re-victimize the victims. And I see that's part of what's going on here, flipping the script, projecting. This has nothing to do with the flag. We have to remember when Donald Trump stood and when the flag was actually being pledged, he did not have his hand over his heart. His wife had to nudge him to let him know, put your hand over your heart, do the appropriate thing. This man is so far removed from honoring anything about this country, including the Constitution. So I dare 45 to change the conversation and get people confused as to what's really going on here. See, I could say a lot of things. So the military has, a disrespect for the military has nothing to do with this at all. Okay, now he, as far as I'm concerned, he has embraced the Confederate flag more than he has the United States of America's flag. So we have to take what he says with a grain of salt. But like I said, the unfortunate thing about it, a lot of folks are just not being exposed to the real discussion. And so therefore he's shooting for his base. We know that. And but, you know, curiously enough, his base is not large enough to have elected him.
Mm-hmm.
His hand was in this, okay? And it's still being uncovered every day. But the audacity of him to try to condemn this man along with other football players is racist, because he knows that the NFL is dominated by black males, black men. He knows this.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned something recently, that Donald Trump had sued the NFL for infringement and some other things. I think he sued them for $3 billion. I think he was awarded $3.50. And, you know, he does not let go of grudges easily. So I'm sure he's still trying to get back at the NFL. When he calls for a boycott, what is he trying to do? Make them lose money. He's trying to put a hurting on them. So we have to take everything that he says with a grain of salt and consider who is saying it and the other behaviors that he has demonstrated, such as the way that he has reacted to the folks in the American Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico, American territory. We have to look at all of that before we can ever take this man seriously on any given issue. I guess that's enough on that.
Well, you're absolutely right. I've been watching him. I've been listening to what he's allowing to come out of his mouth, and man, this guy here, he's a mess.
He's ill. Let's face it. I shouldn't say that. They don't like for us to analyze him, but he's really analyzing himself and putting himself on full display.
Mhm.
Excuse
yes,
me, brother.
He is.
Emma's trying to.
Okay, that's absolutely correct. He has put himself out there, and everybody see him, and a lot of people, you know, they just done put their head in their hands, because they don't know what he gonna say next. And it's amazing for a man to be in that position and to carry himself that way out in the public, is as if he just don't have any shame. I mean, he don't care. You know,
he really does not.
Politicians always gonna come back and bring all that back.
See, that's right. That's right, because he's losing support as a result of his ongoing unacceptable, inappropriate behavior. He's an embarrassment, really, not only to the Republicans but to this country, period. And the international community, they're amazed. They said, "What has America done? Who has she put in there?" And we didn't put him in totally. Well, Russia helped this to come about because they figured they could use him as a puppet. So we have to take, like I said, not to repeat myself, but we cannot take him seriously. Okay, but he's dangerous now because he is the commander-in-chief, and he can do a lot of damage, not only to America, but in the international community, and cause a lot of damage to come to America. So people are calling on him, his own constituents, and other politicians calling on him to lower the rhetoric, stop this.
Mm-hmm.
But his whole tactic is to divide and conquer. That's what he knows best. He has to have an adversary. So, you know, people are really looking at him now saying, you're talking about the NFL and you're going to play golf while these people are dying and suffering? And I don't know if you remember General Honoré, the 3-star general who went to Katrina to help with that situation. Well, he's in Puerto Rico now, helping to direct that. But not as a result of Donald Trump employing him, but as a result of CNN sending him there to assist the folks out there in Puerto Rico. It's a doggone shame, and hey, it's because these people are of color. It's so deep in him, he cannot help himself, okay? Everyone has had to call him out and say, hey, what are you doing? What are you thinking? You need to get on this. So if ever there were any doubts, I said even the most uneducated, uninformed can see this one. Some of the other kind of a little slightly higher discussions or a little bit more complicated, this one is in our faces. So there's no doubt about what he is doing. Even those who have been reluctant to call him racist have said there's just no other way to explain this because of the responses that he had given when the hurricanes occurred here in Texas and affected Florida. He was right on it. And that hasn't been the case with the islands. But anyway, so, we shall see. And I'm sorry that man is feeling that way. I'm sorry for the loss of his son in the military. But if anything, Donald Trump is using this situation and making a mockery. If he's to have any hard feelings at all, I would say he should direct those towards 45.
Mm-hmm. Well, I have to agree. You nail it dead on the head. There's no way for anybody in their right mind in the United States today to look at Donald in any other light than what he's presenting himself as. Mm-hmm. And I don't, I don't look. When he's talking, I really don't want to listen to nothing he got to say. But
and I sure don't want to look at him pouting. No.
He pouting. He certainly do, and something is wrong when every 5 minutes somebody's resigning.
Yes, because just look at who he has surrounded himself by. And then I don't know what he was thinking. I think he thought they would get away with it because we knew some things before they actually occupied the White House. When during the campaign, we knew that there was interference already. Matter of fact, I personally wrote President Obama and said, how is your administration allowing this man to take office? I said, while there is concern about preserving the institution, it's coming apart right before our very eyes, and he will not do anything to preserve that. So I felt like Trump and his crew were running for cover, and they were allowed to get in there, but they're not really getting the cover that they had anticipated. I think he thought he was going to run it like a dictatorship, and all would be well with his entourage, and that would be the end of it. But it's not working out like that. And so we just have to keep our eye on the prize that this is not going to go on too much longer. He cannot continue to poison the well the way that he is, and this destructive path that he has chosen to take. But I don't think he knows any better way. When you have to have an enemy at every turn. See, we have to remember his background. His father belonged to the KKK, and that's not a slanderous statement. That is a factual statement, And as our parents have taken us to various activities that they have participated in, I would rest assured that his father took him to KKK meetings, and that he has grown up thinking the kind of thoughts that we know that the KKK has. And we have to face it for what it is. He's never denounced that. I've seen people denounce what their parents stood for. He hasn't done any of that. And as a matter of fact, I think his father was arrested at a KKK meeting. It's on the Internet. Not that everything is true out there, but it's in, I think, It's in some very reputable references. And MSNBC did a special on it not so long ago about his father, and it was printed in the newspaper that he was arrested at a rally because there was an outbreak of violence there. So if any, he could very well, he's very vindictive. So this could be part of what he's doing. He wants to see the United States in a world of trouble because maybe someone, he perceives that he cared about and was correct, or whether, So something is this is like, is he hiding something from us? Something more? We know he was trying to hide, but it's being revealed daily. So I'm just hopeful that Mueller or Mueller, however some folk might pronounce it, that he is on the case, the special prosecutor. And I'm trusting that this is going to conclude itself in the very near future. That is my hope. Enough is enough. Okay? Enough is enough of this. If that had been someone of color, President Obama had done of what he has done, impeachment proceedings would have been under the way and maybe completed by now. But we need folks to stand up, not only in that House, but in the Senate as well. Someone needs to put it. I know Auntie Maxine Waters is calling for his impeachment, has been for some time, but we need more to call for it. So I'm hopeful. It might not sound like it, but I really am, because I think he's done enough to warrant anything that comes, whether it's indictments. I understand that there are going to be some indictments coming down very soon, and I'm sure, well, I don't know about a sitting president, but those all around him are being heavily scrutinized, and it looks as though there will be some indictments coming down soon. Maybe that'll shake him up, but I doubt it. Nothing seems to move him. When he gets on a negative kick, that's it. But we're not going to let him change the conversation. It's about police brutality. It's about our black men being murdered by the police, and there are no consequences for it. And we want a better response to it than this. We want to see some action. But with Jeff Sessions in there, that's highly doubtful, because he's put forth some policies that says basically the police can do whatever they want. So here in Chicago, I don't know whether you heard about it, but we had a couple of police to take the knee this week in support of Kaepernick. And they're being reprimanded for it. But they're saying that they don't agree with police brutality either, and they are the police. So it's going to take more NFL getting involved. It's going to take more police and us to continue to speak what this is about and not allow 45 to dominate with his alternate truth, alternate facts. Okay, we cannot have that. Okay, because there have always been alternate facts about us. Enough is enough.
Well, all right. I agree. You are quite welcome, sister. Okay. Dr. Williams, are you available?
Yes, I'm here, Brother Tarhaka.
The 415.
Okay. Where you want?
Did the 415 get through?
Yeah, I see him on the line.
Okay,
they have
press
one on the phone, and press one on the phone. That way I can let him in.
Okay.
But I see him now.
You see him now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Hold on one second. Area code 415. You're on the air.
Okay. I'm here.
Hey, Sister Emma McGowan. What you think about this stuff? How you doing?
I'm doing great. Well, I read in the paper this morning about the guns. Supposedly, they go pass a bill that they can use silencers on guns.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. They doing all kind of stuff.
Yeah, right. And I guess I'm not surprised by Puerto Rico because they are minority, and so the longer you delay, the more die. So it's it goes with the program. I'm not surprised at all. That's
no, I'm never surprised at anything.
Right,
I've been watching the same thing.
And it shows us that we are not supposed to look for somebody else to come save us.
Mhm.
And the thing about it is we have to change our consciousness about the whole thing. And I'll keep saying that over and over until we do. We got to let ourselves define who we are and not other people. We have been defined and described by other people, and we try to react to it by acting it out instead of saying no. We don't even realize we're doing it in a lot of cases. We don't realize that we just being constructed as to who they say we are. Finding who we are ourselves.
That's right. I've been did that a long time ago.
Right. And who do you think go change things who messed them up in the first place? Be real, people.
You're right. So
Yeah,
what do you think is the solution to this thing, facing people that look like us in the United States?
They have to change thinking and trying to be like people that's telling us who we are. Once we realize who we are, claim our own power, then we become different people. But when you're trying to go by somebody else's power and say they have it, then you means you don't recognize your own. People say money is powerful. People in Congress are powerful. Well, what about yourself? And the sad part, you believe there's a guy and he would give it to somebody else to rule. I don't believe that. That makes no common sense, any kind of sense. Even stupid people shouldn't even believe that. And why would they change? They figure it's all in their favor. And so far, it has been. So why do you look for those people who put you in a situation to change it for you? It's never going to happen. How can you ask for justice when the law is not just? No way. You got to start looking in the mirror and know that you are just as powerful as any law, any money, or anything else you give it to. Give it to yourself. And you see how it transforms not only you as an individual, it transforms your health, everything in your life. All of a sudden begin to change for the better. But as long as you recognize it as being other people, then it won't ever happen.
Emma is so correct. And I would like to dovetail on that a little bit, Brother Tarhaka, if that's okay.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, yes. What you reminded me of is this concept of self-talk. Oftentimes, we're telling ourselves the wrong thing. And she's right. We can't be focused on what's wrong all the time. We have to focus in on, as she said, what we want. And we can reinforce that in our lives with our self-talk and our affirmations. We need to sit down, jot down, and meditate on what it is we want to see. Because inevitably, when we make a decision, we always say the things in our lives start to flow towards the decisions that have been made. So we've got to change our psyche, in other words, our thinking as well as our words, which will help us to transform our action, which might put us before the White House every day with protests. Yes, they want to see protests cut out. That's very consistent with how Russia treat their people. This man, 45, wants to be a dictator, but it's not going to happen in this society. So we need to come together. We can do it individually or collectively. I think even if we do it individually, we all want similar things. And when we start to concentrate that power and those efforts and those words and the thoughts and the thinking and the actions in that direction, we'll end up in pretty much where we want to be. Let me be careful with how I say that. I start to say where we are, but where we want to be. And we'll be totally amazed that so many of us have arrived at that same spot. And things will begin to happen in a very positive way for us, because we will have others in awe. It will be just like when they went into ancient Egypt back in, the 4th BC century, and they were in awe, okay? And that's how we needed to be now, be in awe of the actions that we're taking, the thoughts that we have, what we're bringing about, because we are the ones who are going to have to bring this justice about. See, that is an African concept, okay? And it was many things that was not understood by the invaders of Africa. They didn't understand a lot of things. They wanted to be a part of it and wanted to duplicate it, but I would say to this day, there has not been any understanding, especially in the spiritual realm. It's just you got different spirits out here. I mean, we seem to be one way. We know how we are as a people. We're those compassionate folks who feel for everybody, who loves everybody. And then opposing that, you got people like 45 who are filled with hate. They only want it for themselves. That's selfishness. And again, like I said on the last program, I believe that's why we were chosen to bring forth civilization, is because we have a compassionate and sharing spirit. And so we need to recognize that in ourselves all over again and with each other, and call forth that which we want, which we know will be good for all. And that's what needs to dominate, because this negativity that is dominating, it's not going anywhere. It's going in a bad, bad direction. So with all this stuff between 45 and Kim Jong-un, I'm saying, hey, if you're going to act up Kim Jong-un, make sure you direct that to 1600, and, hey, not to the rest of us. But we don't want to see that happen either. We don't want that. We want this to stop in its tracks right now, and we want there to be peace, and we can help bring about that peace. Thank you.
Well, I agree. I agree. Now, you mentioned, Sister Emma, you mentioned about focusing and jotting down information. Are you telling us to design our own blueprints for a solution?
Yes. Otherwise, it does not get done. It's undermined. It's everything. Think about it. What is patriotism? Celebrating killing, celebrating blood, celebrating taking stuff, stealing stuff from others. That's what patriot is. That's exactly what that flag stands for, if the truth be told. This country is conceived and dedicated to killing and taking. Just face it. We don't want to face it. Kneel for what is? You kneel to pray too, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
What is the big deal? What is the big deal about kneeling for that flag? That's because you're not standing up and putting your heart in it, because you have your hand over your heart. Maybe that's the problem. You got your hand over your heart. Maybe that's the problem. Every holiday we have is just about celebrating death. Think about it. This country.
That's true.
Independence Day. Killing the Indians to get it, to take it, the land. They didn't give them money. They gave them land and then took around and put them on a reservation. Come on, people. What are you thinking? You think and you wonder why America have a heart problem? because it has no compassion in that heart.
That's right. That's right.
Almost every holiday, even Christmas, we go around like mad people, buying stuff, giving it to people, even junk they don't want, hanging up symbols. For what? I'm saying, for what? For the retailers, for that 1% people, not for you, not for your heart, not for Christ, when history can't even find him.
Thank you. So correct. You're right. You know, someone was pointing out how they kneel before the game and they kneel after the game. And so, but we know what this is about. It's about attacking a black guy who was protesting police brutality. When you got a White House and an attorney general saying, police, it's okay to do whatever you want to those other people. Okay, so what better can you expect from them? Okay, but we have to say, and we are saying in our own way, hey, enough is enough. Now, you're trying to take it in another direction, but no, this is what it's about. It's not about disrespecting the flag. Most people don't even know where the flag came from and the symbolism of it. And then that Stars Spangled Banner, okay, you know, I should have it up on my computer right now, but supposedly the second stanza is about slaves and catching them wherever they are, doing what they want to them. Come on, we need to take there are things that people like Trump want to keep alive and well. So someone has suggested that it needs to be rewritten because, and this is another reason I understand that Kaepernick took the knee, is because of that Star Spangled Banner and that second verse in particular, okay, that condones slavery and keeping us enslaved. So we really need to look into the depths of things and not take everything at face value, and why this has become so important to the president, to, you know, him, Donald Trump. So we need to look beneath the surface.
Is this guy's his popularity dropping, isn't it?
Tarhaka, sorry. Go ahead, Tarhaka.
I was saying Donald's popularity has been dropping lately, hasn't it?
Yes, he's embarrassing everybody. He is an embarrassment. Yes,
okay. It
has. Yes, his popularity is diminishing. His job approval is steadily sinking. I think there was a little bump when he first started this mess, but I think about 65% of the people are saying he should not be involved in this NFL situation at all, should not have gotten involved in it. But we know that is a distraction. We know that. Look at all the scandal that's been happening, not only with the neglect on the hurricane situation, but also all this air travel. You got you had a human health and human services director, cabinet member who wanted to cut health care for everybody. That was his job. That's why Trump put him there, to help get rid of the Affordable Care Act, or Obamacare, as a lot of people like to call it. But at the same time, he's taken flights, took up to $1 million flights on private jets since May? Come on. Okay? That's the kind of foolishness and things that they want us to be distracted from that are now hitting the fan. So with him, you always have to say, what's really going on? What's he trying to hide this time with his foolishness? We always have to look behind whatever he says to see what the real deal is. We have to be hyper-vigilant in thinking about him and listening to him. Brother Tarhaka?
Okay. I wrote an article the other day, and everybody was telling me they was quite pleased with the article. And I'm going to go over it for y'all right now, and you give me your opinion on this thing. Stop taking a knee and start taking a walk. I knew a long time ago that the majority of players in the NFL and the NBA are people classified as non-white. Around 95% of players in both leagues combined were classified as such. That leaves 5% of players classified as white. Now, my question is, who are the people classified as non-white going to the fight to see? Muhammad Ali or Jerry Quarry? Did they go to San Francisco to see Joe Montana or Jerry Rice? Who do you think they went to Chicago to see? Mike Dicker or Walter Payton? And it goes on and on. My point is this. If you are the people who are filling the stadiums and you are the one who is generating the wealth and you are the ones who have the biggest fan base, who are you bowing your head to, taking a knee to, and locking arms about? Why don't you just tell the people who are paying you to just settle up with you collectively and take a walk? Collectively, you have enough money to build your own franchise and stadium right now. And you never have to worry about filling the stadium, training or finding a head coach. The name of your league is simple. The Universal Football League, the Universal Basketball League, the Universal Hip-Hop Industry. And don't forget to build your own bank and acceptable currency while you're at it, et cetera, et cetera. If someone is caught in your stadium singing the national anthem about a country who has mistreated you, killed you, lynched you, shot you, raped you, etc., throw the bomb out after you give him or her money back.
Okay, now.
I ain't through. I love it. Just imagine you can build a stadium in your neighborhood amongst your poorest people. Set up your own small police department to protect the hood, the stadium, the players, and the game. You know the Universal Police Department. Everyone on the beat looks just like you. Now you know you need your own endorsements and TV stations and networks so you can stop telling your people about products that you don't make, you didn't create, you don't use, you don't believe in, and you don't get the lion's share of the profits from. Stop taking a knee and start taking a walk so I can start back watching sports again. You had your own league before, and you can do it again. And remember, this thing has already been done before. Remember Elijah Muhammad? You could have some real cheerleaders that are fine as all get out, that look just like you, called the universal cheerleaders. No straight hair, just small, medium, and large afros, and no flat butts. Create your own rules of the game. Drop the words like national, American, and America. Because if you were any of that, you would have been treated like one a long time ago. It's been going on well over 400 years. Stop waiting for something different to happen and make something happen. If you pull this one off, I guarantee the world will respect you, including your enemy. He won't like you, but he has to respect you. And if he doesn't like it, he can always take a knee about it. Your stadium will be beautiful inside and out. Color black and white photos and artwork of your own. You can erect a giant statue of Nat Turner at the entrance to all your stadiums. Just use your imagination. So stop kneeling on that bad knee. Lift your head high. Unlock your arms. And if you are in the locker room, use some shoe leather and walk out the back door before the game starts. I know, I'm off the chain. Well, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. That's the article.
I love it.
I do. Oh yes, that's you said it all. We need to do our own thing, and I heard somebody make a reference to having a black national football team. We can go beyond that, but I love what you said. You took it from the player to the cheerleaders. You involved every aspect of the entertainment, and how we need to do what we need to do for ourselves. Listen, I say one of the things about America, they can't get over slavery, and we need to stop acting like slaves, stop thinking like slaves, and stop working for somebody and start working for ourselves. And that's essentially what you have said in so many words, and that'll get us the respect that we need. It'll change that other NFL to such a degree it won't be that interesting. Like you said, who's coming to see who? I love it.
Well, all you gotta do is go to the NBA and you come down here in Miami. You're looking at the LeBron James show. All the brothers got to do. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
All they got to do, you got them with $1 million contracts, even if they didn't have but $200,000 apiece. That's enough money to build a stadium. That's enough money to set up their own police department, little substations around the stadium, and employ
one thing we know,
their own people.
And, hey, build us a stadium like they have built the NFL, these various stadiums around the country. The cities, the counties, they put their funds together and build these stadiums. I don't think the NFL owns stadiums, do they? No, I think public dollars have been used to build those stadiums.
Well,
I think it's Dallas.
You got private.
I think they built their own.
You got some private people that own some. We got one guy down here, Sean Khan. He built the stadium out there. He owns that, the Jaguar franchise. But my point is, all the brothers have to do is just say, hey, man, look, everybody coming to see us. We the greatest show on earth. Let's go tell these people to settle up with us. Give us what you got to give us by contract, and all the rest that you promised me that I ain't never seen. You go ahead and hold on to that, and we finna take a walk. And that way, when we get where we going, we can take a knee anytime we get ready. Because there won't be no national anthem sung up in there. And so that'll end all of that right there. That'll be in there. You talking about somebody begging and pleading? Man, it'll be a mess, man.
Oh, when Donald said, fire the SOBs. Oh, boy, that's when those owners started to come out and standing with their players. They're not about to fire the SOBs. What an insult.
The SOBs bring him money.
He lost his mind.
He lost his mind, and they let him know, hey, you're going too far. One guy came out, one of the owners said, these men are not SOBs. They're thinking, intelligent human beings. Boy, they really, he crossed the line when he did that. He crossed the line. Yeah,
man, them folks, they know who drawing the money in them buildings. They know who bringing the money.
Hello.
Right.
There you go. He's trying to hurt them. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well,
yeah, he's not out for anybody's benefits but his own. Like I said earlier, he has a grudge against the NFL with the lawsuits. He's always suing somebody, as we know, trying to extract money from them the way he can. So, hey, you can't get in there and play the ball, so you're going to say they're infringing upon you.
Yeah,
okay, I'm sorry.
What they should do, they should get him, put him on a uniform, put him out there on the field with them brothers. Give him the ball. That would be something to see.
That would be something to see.
Probably I'd run a few of them, too. Help.
Man,
I'm going to take a little...
scared away.
I got a caller with his hand raised. Y'all hold on. I got a caller with his hand raised. Area code 678. Tell us who you are, where you calling from.
This is Tony Kemp. How are you, my brother?
Hey, I'm fine, Mr. Kemp. Come on in, man.
Oh, thank you. I'm sorry I'm late, but
that's all right.
I was with my wife.
Time. You on time. What's your take on some of this here, man?
Well, I got to tell you, these days everybody's always recreating history. Everybody was so happy about integration, and I call it infiltration. And,
oh, yeah.
And my history is like this. My father played professional baseball. He was with the Negro League, and he was with a team called the New York Black Yankees. He was a catcher coach. And the thing that I want to make a point to you is the fact that the team was established and financed by a gentleman by the name that you might remember or might not remember, by the name of Bill Bojangles Robinson.
Bojangles, I remember him.
And the thing about it is, it makes the point that all these millionaires, people that are stars, rappers, actors, even the professional people, I don't understand why they don't establish teams to really help them understand and really break the foundation under these people who think they have it established and think that they're the only game in town, because, quite frankly, they are not. And it's like, think about this. If only all the white players played in the NBA, that wouldn't be much of a game, would it?
No, it stands to be empty. I sure won't go.
And if only the white players played in the NFL, there wouldn't be too many players anyway. Mm-hmm. So
ain't nothing to see.
Ain't nothing to see. When they know for a fact that we are the ones that bring the entertainment. We are the ones that bring the whatever. And let's not even talk about boxing, please. My God.
I can't even imagine that no more.
I just had a cold shiver. But anyway, what I'm saying is, we must, like I always say, this is an enterprise. This is not a country. I even say something so bold and so crazy that we as people of color right now need to invest our money in everything that Donald Trump is trying to get into, because even anybody who makes 1% or 1/10 of 1% of what he's investing in will become millionaires. When we become millionaires and outnumber them, then we'll be able to take our money, we'll take our ball out of the game and go play somewhere else, and then they will have to come and look at our demands and have to heed our demands, because we make too much money. We spend too much money in their enterprises. We spend as much money on Christmas and Thanksgiving and the 4th of July as some small country.
That's right.
We must come trillions of dollars, trillions with a T we be spending. So why don't we get our brains together, our money together, and come together and let them know that we are an entity? You know, we sing for you, we play for you, we dance for you, we run for you, we this and that for you. But you have to respect us after we do that. Our hand is open for the check. Okay? We got to have it.
Well, Tony, hold on. I got another caller with his hand raised down here at code 312. 312, you're on the air. Tell us who you are, where you're calling from.
Yes. Good evening. This is Brother Yoel calling from the Dark City, better known as Windy City, Chicago.
Hey, brother. What's going on, Brother Yoel? Welcome. That's all right. You ain't running late. Come on in, man. Give us your take on this thing.
Take your shoes off. Says a spell, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think the brother was hitting on some of it right there, right just now when he was talking. But I think when you talk about racism, first and foremost, if you can't see it at your door, you definitely can't see it down the street or nowhere else. And some people can't see it right in front of them like that. So we've always been told, and I'm sure some of y'all have heard this before, the correct solution to the problem is utilizing the correct identification of the problem. Most of us can't correctly identify the problem. So how can you fix it or try to even fix it when you got so many people creating it, and they created it by methods that you, for instance, if you got an organization here in the city of Chicago and it's trying to do something with the youth here in Chicago, one of these foundations here will say, hey, okay, Brother Yoel, I will give you $20,000-$30,000 to help you with your foundation. We need this here from you. We need this, this, and this. Your mission statement, your purpose, all that kind of stuff. Okay, Brother Yoel gives the foundation that what they require, and they give me that $30,000. Now, I'm not going to say too much anything about that organization or that foundation that gave me that money, because that's like biting the hand that feeds me. So, as a matter of fact, I'm not going to say anything because I don't even see that the foundation that's giving me this really not trying to help me. They're really just trying to see what I'm up to so that they can do what they need to do to counter whatever it is I think I want to do. And they're willing to pay me $30,000 just to do it. A good example of this was in the book business, y'all. There was Chicago was at one time, of course, had the most black bookstores in the country. Okay, in one city. Now, there was a brother that was in the book business, and he had some retail stores. He had several of them. I'm not sure if he had 10 or some quite close to 10, but the publishers decided to say, look, we'll pay you $60,000 just to write us a paper on your bookstores and what you're doing. They paid this brother $60,000 to see what he was doing, and they did not do anything with that paper that he gave them on what he was doing. All they wanted to know is what was it that he was doing, and we were willing to pay you this. Those people were not in purposely trying to help him do anything or put no money in his pocket like that. They were just trying to figure out how to counter what it is that he's doing, how to shut it down. So he couldn't see that. Likewise, today we can't see that because we got these foundations like NAACP and all these other organizations out here who are getting money from these white foundations and all of that kind of stuff. But they think that these organizations and these people who are giving them this money are really trying to help them, but they're really not trying to help them. And then if they add to that a sleeping brother and sister who really can't see anything, they give them the positions in these organizations, especially those that are certified. And by certified, usually that means those who are in academia, those who jumped through all the loops and got my master's degree, okay, and all of those other degrees that they get. So those people were eager to flex themselves and say, "Look at me! I got this good job, and I got a PhD, a master's, and I'm gonna do what these good white folks tell me to do, and I'm keep on getting my money." Now, another example of that in the music industry, just recently, maybe last year, this boy Lil Wayne. That then he wouldn't be rich, a millionaire. Now, what does that say to you? That he couldn't see the racism right in front of him because they done put money in his pocket. So he done became blind. I wouldn't say he became blind. He was blind already, and he would become even more blind when they put money in his pocket. So he didn't see no racism. So if we can't see the racism right in front of us in our front door, how can you see it anywhere else? Mm-hmm. These people are willing to do things that you're not willing to do. He practiced the art of war, keeping his friends close and keeping his enemies closer. And what that keeping his enemy closer means, he will pay for your show, Tarhaka. He will pay you thousands of dollars for your show just to listen to what you're talking about. And you be thinking it is important, and his plan is to shut you down. Or maybe just to keep an ear to the ground and listen to what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they're willing to do. They'll buy a company, and they'll buy a company that's doing well, like Soft Sheen here in Chicago, and crushed it. They'll let it survive for a little while, and then they'll crush it. And you'll be asking, well, what happened to Soft Sheen? It was a successful business. He just wanted to crush it. He made you think he wanted it, so he wanted to make the profits from it, but no, he didn't. He just wanted to crush the business. That's what they're willing to do. They're willing to put their money out there and make you think one thing, but while he's doing something else. Now, that's some serious business there.
Oh, yeah.
So
I got a caller with a hand raised up.
Yes.
I certainly appreciate that, brother. Hold on now.
Mm-hmm.
I got another caller down here with at area code 574.
Yes.
574.
Peace,
you on there.
Peace, my universal family. Peace to the God. Islam.
Peace, bro.
Peace. Fort Sumter. How you doing? This is Fort Sumter, L. Bay. The brother just dropped some good stuff, right? So I'm just going to say, I'm going to just talk real quick. First and foremost, racism isn't going to go anywhere. Ever since Yakub put these Albion creations, a.k.a. Caucasians, these dead beings in place, it's like racism is a fine-tuned instrument, and it took thousands of years for them to make it. So what I'm saying is this, but we gotta realize it's a spiritual battle. Like, all the tactics have been tried already. But one thing I noticed a lot of people have not tried is this. This is what I know about a spiritual battle. You can't worry about the devil, man. The devil gonna do what he do. What we need to do, our most successful thing has been proven. Like when you study Black Wall Street, forget about them. We pick up. We do our own thing. We worry about our own finances, our own military, because you're going to need one of them to keep them off once you get prosperous. Otherwise, they'll bomb you again. Just forget about them. We rebuild and keep them out of it. We'll have success.
Right. Period.
And then, not only, don't think locally this time, think globally. Go around, spreading it out. But yeah, don't worry about them. They doing what they're supposed to do. We supposed to do. We gods.
Well, I have to agree with that, bro. I just got through saying that in the article that I was reading out here. Let me go back over to the sisters.
All right.
Okay, sisters, y'all still with us?
Still here.
Okay. What else y'all want to add?
Mr. McGowan, are you there, my dear?
I'm here. I was waiting for the sister.
Well, you're the sister now.
You're the sister now.
You know what? I agree with the piece you wrote. I agree wholeheartedly. But as I keep saying, we have to get a consciousness to rise above these people and not even worry about what they think and say, and who needs respect from them. I don't. Respect ain't worth a nickel and a dime anyway because they ain't got it to give. How you going to give something you don't have? You can't. And that's what I'm saying. We keep looking and deferring to these people who created the mess in the first place. We shouldn't even mention them. We just get a consciousness without them, period. Not even think about them. Not even recognize them. Don't even see them. That's what the Invisible Man said when he wrote the book. He said they didn't see him. They talked like they didn't hear him. Maybe we should do some of the same thing.
I agree.
Okay, the congressmen, all the rich people. See, the thing about it, it's so constructed that white people believe they white. White is a construction for that 1% they're talking about, okay? It is not for every white person, okay? Number one. Let's face it. White people ride on the coattail of a horse. They're grabbing his tail, but that horse is for that 1% white people. They do not get the benefits. Yeah, they holler middle class. They holler this. Those are the main slaves right there, that middle white people, okay? They give them a little more money. They do this for them. They set up things for them. They set up, Google set up all kind of lunches and treat them special. But in the end of the day, they still high-priced slaves, and they are not in that 1%. You see? And then when they get out of them what they need to do, what do? It crashes. They take their money out of it and start a new group. We need to face it. How can you expect it to do for us what they do to them? They do the same thing. And until all the people wake up, it is never going to change. And maybe Trump is the catalyst to change that, because now the white people look at him and say, do I look that stupid? They have to look at themselves now and say, I look that stupid. I need to step back. I can't go with this man. He's teaching them more than he's teaching us, because we already knew the game.
Well, brother Tony.
Yes, sir.
You with me? What do you think about impeachment? What's your take on that impeachment?
Impeachment. Trump is still a shovel they're still using. The sheen ain't even off him yet. The only thing they're doing with Trump is able to claw back most of the little nickels and dimes and bits that Obama gave to us, and they're just trying to claw it all back. And they can do it under the guise of him. Somebody's got their, excuse me, God, I didn't mean to say that. They're just treating him like a puppet. They got their hand up his orifice, like, he's doing exactly what he's supposed to do. He's a shield. He's a shield. He's the front man. He's the pitch man. He is so deeply ingrained. He's so deeply programmed to believe that he can do or say anything he wants. He thinks that presidential thing is absolute power, and it's not. It's not. They can unplug him. They can unplug him as fast as they plug him in. There's one thing I wanted to say to the brother before the sister who so eloquently spoke. There was a joke that Damon Wayans used to tell years and years ago when he was doing stand-up. And he said, y'all, said black people get real quiet when that check goes. And he said, he was talking like, in that white voice, he was going, excuse me, Damon, we would just wanted to know, and how much are we paying you now? About $10 million since you last cashed that check. We just wanted to know, is there racism, Damon? And Damon goes, well, no, sir. As far as I see, I ain't seen you. Because he just cashed that check. You think he's going to say, you racist bastard, you just gave me this $10 million. I spit in your face. I take this check. And then when they bounce that sucker, he's back to, sir, I'm sorry, sir. I didn't mean to say that. I got carried away, sir. It's the same old thing. I mean, slavery is slavery. It moved from the ankles and the wrist to the brain. And that's all it is. That's why you can't see the change. They're in the brain. People are thinking, well, if I make one stupid move, I'm done, And that's how you got them. You think you go up in here and you make this, you make all this money, you spend all this money to get all these degrees, and then when you get to the degrees and you develop your critical thinking, the one thing you realize is when you get that education, you realize you're screwed from the beginning anyway. It's just one bit of knowledge that they give you to let you know, although we gave, Leon, although that we gave you all this magnificent education at the feet of our white men, we just want to let you know that you're just educated now and you shall remain at our feet anyway. We don't care what you do. And that's exactly what it is.
Yeah, exactly. That's
well, soon to see.
Nothing has changed. It just goes in a different language. They just changed the language on it. Yeah, they give you money, but you got to be making 3 times that much or 4 times or 10 times that much if they're giving you that. They're not giving you anything.
They're not giving you anything. Can I tell you a funny story? Can I tell you? It won't take long.
Go ahead.
Okay. My wife was working at this furniture store, and my wife knows that I'm absolutely nuts. She knows that I'm absolutely crazy. So we were sitting out in the front parking lot of this place, and she said, "Baby, I think there's some girls in there that really give me a hard time. And I think you could do something about it." So I put this evil grin on my face, and I said, "Give them a call." And when the lady asked me, she said, "Welcome to such and such furniture. How can I help you?" Well, I picked up the phone and I said, "Excuse me, is this the manager?" She said, "Well, my name is Lucille Ledbetter, and I was up in there about 3 weeks ago, and I was talking to this wonderful little colored girl in there, and she was just so nice, you know. And there was these 2 other girls, the white girls, and they were just saying ugly things about it. And, you know, I could not stand it. You know, I'm saved, you know. I cannot hear those kind of things. Never heard things like that in my life. So I was wondering, is there anything you could do about that, you know, because of that?" And the woman turned around and said, "You know, I'm just as slave as you are. I will handle this as soon as I can. I will get right on it." So my wife comes back up in there, and we been transferred to another city. That's
okay. Okay. But your phone was a little bit muffled on the end. Okay.
Well, what I said was those 2 white girls got transferred. I pretended being a southern white woman talking about the poor little black girl who got abused, and I got 2 white women transferred to another city.
Play the role.
You should try it sometime. That reversal thing is really good.
Oh, I've used reverse on one. I've used that on many times. I remember one day they hired me for company, worked for a filling station, and I know the guys in there, they don't like me, white guys. I know they don't like me, and so what they did was I come to open up, and when I opened the cash register, I looked down in the cash before I put my drawer in there. There's a $20 bill there, so I got the $20 bill out, put the drawer in, and ran back in the bill, and I said, "Hey, y'all, somebody left this $20 bill in there." In that drawer in there, and I want to bring it in here so y'all can add it to the whatever it was. I didn't want it to get lost, and so he snatched the $20 bill from me. Look at it, okay, so you don't steal, but you still black. So what I did was, before I left to go home, I came in and I said, "You know what?" I said, "You guys are some pretty smart guys, man." I say, "I'm willing to bet y'all my whole paycheck that I'm supposed to get today. If I am one of y'all can give me a word that rhymes with the word orange, that is a word." Boy, they went to running around in there. They went to pulling out books. They went to rolling up their sleeves. They went to studying and studying and studying and studying. After about another hour, I walked back in there. They all laid back, kicked back. "Well, you really think you are smart?" I said, No. I said, "You got it wrong, man." I said, "I know doggone well I'm smart. I ain't thinking." But anyway, you have to get them, especially if you know they up to something. So you're right.
It's a terrible thing. They rest on the laurels of their white skin. And they will scream that, "What makes you so great?" "Oh, my white skin." And I said, and I told one person, I said, "Excuse me, if y'all so grateful for your white skin, why is it that y'all buy, when April and May comes, Why do you buy all the Afro Sheen in the drugstore just to rub it on your skin to get as dark as me, or try to? They do. When Afro Sheen was so hot, they would you would see white kids coming into black hair products, and they come out with the Afro Sheen. They come out with the hair grease. They come out with the conditioners, and they buy a whole bag of it. And they look at it, and they be rubbing. They go down to the beach and rub it all over themselves. All over themselves. It's ridiculous. Do you know, on our ultraviolet light, when a white person puts on sunblock and they get under an ultraviolet light, you know what they look like? They're black.
Who is that?
When they put on sunblock and they get under an ultraviolet light, white people look black.
Wow.
The ultraviolet light shows black. And one woman got under it and screamed. She I said, that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to get black.
I tell you what y'all should read. There's a book called Black Like Me, written by a man named Howard Griffin. And he was a Caucasian that got with this doctor, and he went to taking these injections and tampering with his skin and make him appear to be black, so he can go down into different areas of town just to see how black people were being treated. And
they made a movie. They made a movie. Yeah. It was James Whitmore who was in the Shawshank Redemption. He played the lead role in that movie.
Well, that's a good book. You should read that. He called his mama. He in 2 days he said, I can't take it no more. And you know they end up finding out what he did, and they put up an effigy and run him out of town. Got a dummy, a white dummy, and put it up there and put a rope around his neck and hung it up in the middle of the streets down there. Boy, they were mad because he had done exposed them and showed just how brothers and sisters were being treated in the South in real life. He said he couldn't hardly take it no more. So he couldn't take it no more.
That level of it shows that we are a strong and indomitable people, because that level of rejection is more than some humans can take. That's why I know that we are closer to God than anything else.
Well,
I believe that with all my heart. We're closer to God than anything else. Anybody that could take that kind of rejection, and live with it and smile with it and raise your children and go through life and look for the brightness and everything, it takes some superhuman skills to do that. It really does.
It sure does. I'm gonna take a little quick break, and we'll be right back. So y'all hold on, man.
As long as white supremacy is alive and well, a white man's heaven is a black man's hell. Many look, but few see, that the most unjust dynamic in the world is white supremacy. Hi, welcome back to Color Me Poetry. I'm Danny Queen. I'm here with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., and we're discussing his book, Textbook for Victims of White Supremacy. Mr. Fuller, you have a long title here. Tell us about the title.
The United Independent Compensatory Code System concept. United means that in theory or in intent, the people who are the victims of racism and are the white people who are against the proliferation or the continued use of racism as the standard for the world's business should be united against that standard. The independent part means that each individual has to do what he or she can to counter racism with the ultimate objective of ending it and replacing it with a thing that we loosely call justice, ultimately leading to peace, quote unquote. Now that means that you're independent. You are a independent person.
So it's not a collective effort.
It's collective in that you go to the third words third and fourth words, compensatory code. You become collective by using a code, the code of compensation, making up. That's what compensatory means, making up for what's missing. Right, and you have a code to make up for what is missing. What is missing is the use of truth to produce justice and correctness, which theoretically would equal peace. So you come up with a compensatory code, a way of thinking, speaking, and acting each and every day in all of the 9 areas of activity. Then you use that code as an individual, wherever you happen to be in all of those areas of activity. And right now, you don't have, it's only a concept. That's where the word concept comes in. See, it's strictly theory right now. You don't have a concept of white supremacy without the practice, because white supremacy is being practiced. A concept of the elimination of white supremacy and or racism and or injustice is strictly a concept. There's no such thing as justice existing anywhere on the planet, since the definition for justice is guaranteeing that no person is mistreated. People are mistreated all over the planet all the time. So you just have a concept of justice. What you have is practical injustice. It's the difference between having a concept of justice and having it actually in practice.
Now here you say the people of the known universe, it says the people, just reading off the back, the people who have the ability to eliminate racism do not have the power to do so. And the people who have the power don't have the will or the ability to do so.
Well, that's obvious. If you are imprisoned unjustly, it means that you do not have the power to get out of prison because of 2 factors. You don't have the will or you don't have the ability. Now, those who are the victims of racism don't have the ability because they do not have the will that provides the ability or the ability to provide the will to not be victims. Also, the racists do have the will and the ability to practice white supremacy. They have proven that.
And that's why you say that there really can't be such thing as a black racist.
No.
Because it has to do with the ability to...
It has to do with the power relationship. It has to do with something that you're actually doing.
Carrying out.
You're actually doing it. White supremacy is a fact. A lot of people do not like to admit to its existence, but any comprehensive analysis would show that.
Okay, everybody, we back. Brother Yoel. Brother Yoel, you with me?
Yes, sir.
Let me ask you something. Do you carry needles for those books?
I can get them, but for right now, I think he's got a group selling them online through him. And he did that because, to my knowledge, he thought that somebody was reproducing the book without his knowledge. So he decided to stop publishing it for a while. And then when he did start selling it again, he started selling it through this organization, and he wasn't selling it to anybody. I guess to keep control of the publishing or reprint it, on making sure that nobody else can reprint it. But
okay.
So, but yeah, I can, but people can easily get it through him too and his people. So.
Okay.
But there's another. That was the only question?
Yeah, that was the question. But go ahead.
Okay. I was going to say that there's another book that makes you take a checkup from the neck up, called the Africa/Personality in America by Kobe Kambone. That book it kind of helps you to critique your thinking and where you are, and how much Afrocentric you think you are versus how Eurocentric you are. Okay, that's a good book and whatnot, you know. So then there's the Intellectual Warfare about Jacob Carruthers. That's a good book if you want to understand it. What we're up against, because we up against some intellectuals, and they are intellectually outwitting us with their intellectuals or so-called intellectuals. So that's a good book. And then there's Crisis of the Negro Intellectual by Harold Cruz is another one. And, of course, you got Dr. Francis Cress Wilson's book, too. And there's many more out there, Raised of the Privileged Class and some others, books out there on racism. If those people who are listening don't have that much of a knowledge of it, those are some books that they can start looking at or trying to order them through underground bookstore if they can, or go somewhere to the black bookstore in your city or town if you got one. If you don't have one, then they can come see me in Chicago at underground bookstore in Chicago. So
okay, now you carrying Dr. Walter Williams' book too, aren't you?
Oh yes, absolutely. I'd be in trouble if I wasn't carrying that one.
Okay. Dr. Williams, are you still with us? Dr. Walter Williams.
I think we didn't put him to sleep.
No, I'm here.
Oh, okay. All right. You wanna tell us about your book?
Well, I wrote two books that's been out. One's been out for 25 years, the other's been out for 14 years. And the first book I wrote is called The Historical Origin of Christianity. The thesis of that book is saying that there has never been a man that ever walked the earth in human form of any race, creed, or color by the name of Jesus Christ never existed. That book is selling all over the world, all in English-speaking countries, the Caribbean, England, etc., etc. My second book is called The Historical Origin of Islam. The thesis of that book is saying that there's never been a man that walked the earth in human form of any race, creed, or color by the name of a prophet Muhammad of Islamic tradition. And that's selling as well all over the world. So those are my two books that's been out there for the years that I just mentioned. And it's continuing to grow and grow and grow, which is good, because that means that people around the world is reading the book. But the books that I've written, that I've mentioned, were written for one race of people, and that's the Africans in the United States of America and the Africans throughout the world. It's a message in both books that will, if they read the books more than once, because you have to read both of my books more than once until you can really internalize the message. And once you internalize the message will that I've written in the book will make you free. And this is what my aim was to achieve when I wrote these two books, is to free our African people from the incarcerated thinking that keeps all religions together, because religions are kept together by one's belief. Once you believe in these various religions, no matter what religion you practice, then you make that religion come alive in your life. So therefore, what you're doing to yourself is incarcerating your mind, your thinking. In other words, when you are incarcerated in a prison, you're given a cell. And in that cell, you live in that cell 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So therefore, you have limited space to live in. When you practice a religion, like I said before, are kept together by one's belief. So when you believe and use your personal humanity to put your spirituality in the belief of these various religions, what you're doing, you are limiting your thinking. That's what you're doing. And when I give lectures around the country, I mention the side effects that religions will put a person in, and the side effects that you're putting your own self in by your belief in these various religions is destroying and taking away your humanity, you see. So it's very dangerous for an individual to practice a religion. And religions, since we're talking about religions, and since we're talking about racism, we're talking about trying to get to the root understanding of how to defeat racism, okay? But these religions will never allow you to do that unless you divest yourselves from all religions. For instance, Christianity, the icon, the image, and the symbol of white supremacy is institutionalized in all Christian churches throughout America and throughout the world. That dead white man on the cross is a symbol of white supremacy. As long as we as an African people in the United States of America and throughout the world go into these churches and bow down and give homage and call this dead white male on the wall our God and Savior, we will never ever be free. In order to free yourselves and ourselves in the African community, we're going to have to divest ourselves from all religions. So that is a quantum leap and a challenge to all Christians throughout the world. And I ask Christians, as I go around the country, making and giving lectures and speeches and on talk radio shows, I ask Christians of African descent, do you think that the white race will take their children and their family into a church and worship a big black African Jesus hanging on the cross and teach their children and family that this big black African Jesus is their God and Savior? Do you think they would do that? No, under no circumstance. In other words, hell no. Then the next question I ask Christians, what is the name of your African God that looks like you? That looks like you. And when I ask that question, I get blank looks. I get their head drops down. They can't answer that question because they don't know and have a God that looks like them, that they are worshiping on a daily basis or weekly basis or whenever they go to church or wherever they worship. So these things you have to really understand. And another thing, Christianity will make a person who practices Christianity and make that human being a defeated human being. Why? Because when you go into these churches to practice Christianity, especially during the time of that Christian taking communion, you have to get on your knees. And you have to, in order to take communion, you get on your knees as a defeated individual. You're bowing down, and the minister of the church tells you and gives you and offers you a wafer for you to eat as the body of Christ. That minister offers you a glass of wine, a sip of wine, as the blood of this Christ. And you eat this wafer as the body of Christ. You drink this wine as the blood of Christ. That means that you have been defeated as a human being, and you should be ashamed of yourself. Once an individual like myself brings that out to you and points that out to you as to what you're doing to your own personal humanity, you are defeating yourself. So, because when you go and sit in the pews of a church, a Christian sitting in the pews of a church don't have to think. You don't have to think, because you come in there with your belief and your faith in this various religion. And Muslims, it's the same way. When they go to a mosque and you sit down and fall on their knees and pray to Allah, an image that they've never seen in their lives. They think and practice about what the Prophet Muhammad said, and they've never seen a picture of the Prophet Muhammad. So therefore, they're worshiping things that they've never seen before in their life and never will see. So we're going to have to divest ourselves from all these religions in order for us to get back to where we belong. And once we find our way back to ancient Egypt, we have to have a unified nation. We have to have nationality as a people. We have to have something to unify around. And once you come back and find your way back to ancient Egypt, you will have a nationality that will unify us as a race of people. Now, Egypt today, as I speak, is occupied by European white Arabs over there. Okay, there's a few of us Africans living over there in the country called Egypt, who are the direct descendants of the ancient Egyptians, those Africans that built the Great Pyramid, that those Africans that brought civilization to all the humanity, those Africans who brought literacy to the world, and those Africans who created mathematics, who domesticated the earth, who domesticated animals, started a farming system, animal husbandry, and I can go on and bring you and point out the rudiments of civilization coming from that culture, and brought and created music for us as a gift to the world. Music came from the creation of our ancestors, the ancient Egyptians. Why? Because and how? Because of the alphabet that they created. Today, as I speak, in music, organized music, consists of the musical scale, do, re, mi, so, fa, la, ti, and then you go back to do, which is where you started from, but it's the first 7 letters of the alphabet, A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. That's do, re, mi, so, fa, la, ti. You see? So they created, it was the world's first, they also used math as to formulate and make their music, which notes and beats and symbols that they use in organized music today. So they were the first musicians on planet Earth. Because why? Because they created music. And the world, if you can imagine, without music would be a very sad, desolate planet without music. So we need to make some quantum leaps. One, we have to know ourselves. Sister Arnetta, Sister Emma mentioned the first thing we need to know is to know thyself. Well, that concept came from our ancestors, ancient Egyptian. Imhotep said, our African ancient Egyptian doctor of medicine, Imhotep said, know thyself. So we have to know thyself first before we can go off and into any other direction. We have to know who we are individually as a human being, what we were given at the time of our birth as a human being coming out of our mother's womb, in her body for 9 months of development of incubation. You have to know what we possess, what you possess individually as a human being. That's number one. Know thyself. Number two, that's the first quantum leap. The second quantum leap that we have to understand is to divest ourselves from all religions. We don't need religions in our lives. It's confusion. We don't need the literature that's connected with and to all religions, such as the Holy Bible. The Bible is a book that one has to believe in. It has no historical worth whatsoever. Okay? So therefore, we're going to have to understand about the Quran. Who created this Quran? Who created Quranic Islam? We're going to have to know about Mohammedanism, et cetera, et cetera. We have to know about these religions historically. We're going to have to know that. We cannot go around believing in these various religions. We've got to know historically about these various religions. And the way you do that, Brother Tarhaka, you have to come on the outside and study these religions from the outside. The moment you step inside of a religion, you can kiss yourself goodbye, because everything that's inside these religions sounds good. And the things that inside of these religions has been institutionalized all around the world to make what's inside of these religions to be real in the eyesight of humanity by way of their belief. But the human beings are the ones that are keeping these religions alive. So therefore, we're going to divest ourselves from all religion. That's number 2. Number 3 goes back to what I said. We as an African people living in the United States of America, we do not have a national identity where we can unify ourselves around this national identity. We identify ourselves as being black people. Black and Negro is synonymous, a name given to us by the Spanish and the Portuguese, okay? And during our time and occupation in Spain, but that goes into another history. It goes into the Moorish history. It goes back into the ancient Egyptian history, and so forth and so on. But that name that we call ourselves, every name that you call yourself, there's a history attached to that name. You say that you're black. Black is synonymous with Negro. You said that you're an African American. There's a history attached to that. So therefore, last September, 2016, they opened up in Washington, D.C., at the Smithsonian Institute, a African American Museum of History and Culture for one race of people, the people living in this country, those African peoples, 50 to 60 million of us living in this country. They opened that museum up, and they told the world, and they told us that our history started with slavery. Our history did not start with slavery. Our history started with the world's first and oldest civilized people on earth, a people, an African people, who brought civilization to all of humanity. That's where our history began, and that history began with our ancient Egyptian African ancestors who built the Great Pyramid, who built the Sphinx, and so forth and so on, as I mentioned earlier. So therefore, that's misleading us to believe that we come from an ancestral history of slavery in this country. So therefore, we're going to have to eliminate that. And the way you eliminate that, you have to study. You're going to have to change your thinking. Okay? These are quantum leaps I'm talking about. Until we divest ourselves from all religions, these religions are keeping us splintered as a people. Like if you drop a plate to the floor, a hard concrete floor, that plate is going to splinter in many pieces from its original shape that was in before it was dropped. So therefore, in order for us to keep from being a splintered people, we're going to have to divest ourselves from religion, and that's where we can unify. And once we unify and identify ourselves as to our ancestors and claim our ancestral history as being descendants of the ancient Egyptians, those Africans who built the Great Pyramid and brought civilization to the world, once you make that declaration and declare that you are a descendant of the ancient Egyptians, white supremacy will fall flat on its face. It's over with, because there's no race of people walking this planet that we call Earth that have and identify their ancestors as being something better than our ancestors, the ancient Egyptians. No race of people on earth can outdo what our ancestors did for all of humanity, and this brings civilization to all of humanity and all the people walking this earth. no matter who they are, and you have 7 billion humans walking this earth of all races, creeds, and color. Okay? And our ancestors, those Africans in Egypt, from their culture and from their civilization, which their civilization lasted 9,668 years before the European came on the scene of history. The European came on the scene of history when he walked into Egypt under Alexander the Greek in 332 BC. Prior to that, Europeans cannot tell you any ancient history of their existence on planet Earth. So therefore, we're going to have to get back to understanding and use the subject and the discipline of history to get us back into the knowledge and to the spiritual realm and the spiritual connection of our ancestors, those great and grand and glorious people known in history as the ancient Egyptians. Until we do those things I've mentioned as I spoke at this very moment, then we're going to always be in confusion. White supremacy is going to always be flourishing in our community because we do not understand who we are as a people. We do not have a unifying nationality to unify around. We have to claim ancient Egypt for our unifying nationality to unify around. We're going to have to divest ourselves from all religion, and we're going to have to study the discipline of history. There are 4 ingredients that makes up the discipline of history. That's 5. Time, people, places, events, and literature. Literature is used to keep and mark and record the time, people, places, and events. So with that being said, Brother Tarhaka, that is the solution that we're going to have to take. And what I just mentioned is a quantum leap that we're going to have to take to do it. Brother Tarhaka?
Okay, well, all right, my brother. You just laid it down on the line. Tony, are you listening?
I knew you were going to do that.
Well, I just want to ask you, have you ever heard anything like that before?
Of course I have.
I have.
Of course I have. Okay. The reason, I know why you did. Well, let me explain. Brother Talk, I love him. I love him so much. I started out meeting, when I first met him, I said, I am a Bible reader. And I believe it to my soul. There's nothing in the Word of God that I do not doubt at all. I take it as infallible. I take it as fact. I take it as history. Mm-hmm. But for me, I have to believe what this book says. Firstly, because of the fact that I must believe there is God. I have to believe that there is a master builder and a master designer who designed people as great and awe-inspiring as we. I have to believe that. Now, I want to discuss this, but I only deal with people who believe that the Bible is infallible. If not, we have nothing to discuss. But I have to believe what this word tells me, because the word tells me that I'm a God. The Bible tells me that I am a God. It tells me that I'm a God. It says that God walks and judges among the gods. And he turns around and also says that I have said you're gods. You're children of the Most High, but you die like men and fall like one of the princes. So if we take this person, I'm formed in his image, that means that I'm his image.
Hello. Your phone sounds like your phone breaking up.
It is?
Go ahead. You sound like your phone breaking up.
Hold on, let me get something here.
Can you hear me now?
Okay. Yeah, I hear you real good.
All right.
Now.
What did I miss? What did you miss?
Just go over that last part.
All right. I believe in what the Word of God tells me. The Word of God tells me that I am a God. I believe that because He said it. He says, although I am a God, I will die like a man and fall like one of the princes. If I am created in His image, that means I'm His namesake. If God created me, then I am God. The problem is, as we know the old story about the knowledge that God, which wasn't no apple, it was just the knowledge that you took. You had a knowledge of error and you had a knowledge of God. You started out perfect. You started out perfect in a place where you could be. And disobedience came. And we had to pay the price. We lived to be 900 and some years, and it kept getting cut down because wickedness was so bad in earth. Not evil, wickedness. There is a difference. All we're trying to do now, and all I believe I'm trying to do now, is get back into my godhood. That means my flesh, my sinful, rotting, decaying flesh will be gone, and I will be changed, and I will be back to my Father. For that to be believed, there are some things that religion teaches that is not correct. When I look into my Bible, it tells me that a Christmas tree is idolatry and against God. When I look into my Bible, I see that a rabbit and some chocolate eggs and looking for them ain't got nothing to do with Jesus being raised from the dead. When I look in my Bible, pumpkins and ghosts are of the devil, which is of Satan, which is not of God. The things that religion is showing our people is not of God. Period. It's not of God. They have a responsibility to show the true things of God. I'll give you an example. I gave this one before. Let's say there's a church of 15,000 people and they're meeting in almost like an arena of a church. Church has been there 25 years. And the pastor walks up and he goes up on Sunday and they pass those plates around. I mean, like in some churches, one is so big it has several ATMs in it. Wells Fargo pulls up in front of there and takes the money out. But let's say, for instance, one Sunday, after 25 years, maybe 27 years goes by, pastor walks up into the pulpit and he says, I'd like to make an announcement. How many of you have been here for 10 years? Hands go up. How many of you have been here 5 years? Hands go up. What we're going to do is put an app on your phones. If you don't have an app on your phone, we will give you hard copy paper. We are going to take the tithes from the last 2 Sundays, and all of you who have walking and working mortgages and car payments that keep you from coming to church, we're going to pay them off. Those of you who have been here 5 years, we'll pay off your car notes so you can make it to church and we can teach you the uncut word of God. Do you think, let me ask you, I really don't think that there'll be any homeless people. Personally, I think the attendance would increase because what I'm trying to say is this. The things that are being taught in the church is not of Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ ain't got nothing to do with Easter Sunday clothes, Santa Claus, Christmas. All it has to do with him coming through the body of a virgin to save human race from the sins that they created. The Bible tells you, love your neighbor as yourself. Jesus said, if he strikes you on one cheek, give him the other cheek. If you have 2 coats and he has none, give him one. If he is hungry, feed him. If he is naked, clothe him. If you are homeless, bring them in. Even if you was of Israel, if you was not of Israel, you give. What's happening in the world is the direct and polar opposite.
the direct and polar opposite of what the Bible says. One last thing. True Christianity is of Jesus Christ. Religion killed Jesus Christ. Religion killed Jesus Christ. The very people who knew of his coming, were the ones who plotted to kill him. Every worshiper and disciple and prophet of Jesus Christ was a convict, never died a natural death for the fact that they actually spoke the word of God and were killed for it. How many people are getting persecuted in these big mega churches in $5,000 suits? I don't see no persecution in that, because they're not really giving you the word of God. They're giving you pep talks. They're giving you psychological encouragement. They're giving you, well, if you do this and give me money, the Lord's going to bless you with money, and you're going to cheapen your life. You're going to throw away godhood and immortality for a house and a car. Come on.
Well, true. The way you know what, Tony, one of the biggest things, one of the hardest things that I had to go through was an investigation on the works that Dr. Walter Williams had brought forth. Very, very interesting. And after I'd done the investigation, turned over every rock, I had no choice but to terminate religion, period. And I learned how to re-listen to that little still voice inside of me that says, turn left or turn right. That's what I had before my mama took me by the hand as a child and took me to a church for the first time. Prior to that, I was following that little inner voice, and so I had to go back and learn how to redo that. But the way I see it is, and this is just my opinion, no intelligent man would attempt to make a decision without knowing all the facts. So what I started out doing was gathering the facts, only the facts. And I know one of the most dangerous men on the planet is one that's engaged in belief. Anytime you see a man walk inside a restaurant with a bomb attached to himself and scream out, "Allah Akbar," and just blow up everybody else in there about something that he don't know nothing about, and somebody he ain't never seen, that's a dangerous man. So what I did was I swapped belief for what I know for a fact and I can prove. When I deal with the courts, the police department, I don't tell them nothing about what I believe. I tell them what I know for a fact. So I put that down on the table. I say, now, if this is incorrect, let me know. These are just the facts. And so that's how I function. Every man is entitled to his own opinion. But if we do a thorough investigation, we may come to some other conclusions. Brother Yoel, you still with me? Okay, I think we're gonna put him to sleep.
Sure.
Sister McGowan.
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, okay. Well, y'all don't everybody jump up at once now. But come on in and let us know what you think about that thing. You know, about that. You know, because I just call it like I see it. I mean, it ain't that clear over there. Suicide bombers in the name of Allah. But Christians, Christians, they ain't, man. Christians don't play that. Christians be like, God just blessed me with this house. He just blessed me with this Lexus, and I don't think he want me going around blowing myself up before I drive it.
Exactly.
So it's a difference. Now, these people are, in my opinion, extreme with what they believe in. You got cultures where here it is 2017 and just let women start driving after all these years.
Yeah.
They still better not take that hood off their face, though. But I think when, in my opinion, I mean, to me, it just seems like common sense. I don't think there's nothing wrong with asking questions. In fact, I wrote an article about that, too. Let me get that article. Where that article at? I just wrote it the other day. The title of the article is "There's Nothing Wrong with Asking Questions." It is right here. There's nothing wrong with asking questions. Question number 1. Where exactly in the New Testament that did Jesus say, "Thou shalt not shoot the police for gunning down your unarmed child in the streets"? Since 1492 until 2017, have you ever seen Jesus or God? And if yes, on what side of town did you see him on? Question number 3. When did the molesting fathers include their slaves into the Constitution of the United States? Question number 5. If the pastor of your church is driving a Cadillac to church and you are putting oil in a Chevrolet, how much of your income should you be giving them? Question number 6. Why would your pastor and his wife need a blessing from God to travel to the Virgin Islands for 2 weeks vacation if he gets 10% of your money every week? What is the definition of the word insanity? Is it wrong to use common sense? Question number 9. Okay, here's question number 9. If you walk into an American grocery store and you see a health food section, what is the rest of what you see outside of that section? If you were born with a brain and can think for yourself, why would you allow someone to tell you to strap a bomb on yourself, walk into a crowded restaurant, blow yourself and everyone else up about something and someone else you believe in but you've never seen? Exactly where in the King James Bible did Jesus make the statement, "Thou shalt be a Presbyterian"? Question number 12. If believing in something or someone doesn't require you to think for yourself, why do you have a brain? Question 13. When did the color black become a nationality? Number 14. If you have a master's degree given to you by your enemy, when did you get an education? What is the definition of the word dumb? Question 16. If you had a belief in God since 1492, what is the definition of the word God? Number 17. If you have been educated by your enemy, why do you still work on his job, making him rich while you are still using the word freedom? If self-determination, knowledge of self, knowledge of your own culture, and development of your own economic base lead to freedom, why do you still drop down on your knees to pray to someone you've never seen for? Freedom after 400 years of slavery. If someone told you, "I have bought you everything, now take it and save yourself," why is having a nationality not important to you? If only a fool would allow his enemies to educate his children, why would you work your fingers to the bone to send them into his system to alter their brains while claiming to love them at the same time? There's nothing wrong with asking questions, especially if you are sane. And that's the article I wrote on that.
Wow. Wow.
I think it just, what I'm doing is, with that article, all I'm doing is just asking questions about things that people don't want to ask questions about. And using common sense at the same time. So when somebody asks me, well, do you believe in God? I just say, well, I ain't never seen him. What about you?
Yeah.
I believe in my brain.
Okay. Now that don't. I didn't say he didn't exist. I said I ain't never seen him, so I gotta be busy dealing with what I know for a fact and can prove. Don't make me wicked, and I'm not evil. I love using common sense though. I like looking at a rabbit and calling him a rabbit. That's just my opinion. Is Sister Arnetta still with us, or she's gone?
Well, I was gone for a few minutes, but I'm here.
Okay. Well, what are your take on all that on common sense?
I think it's great. We have to be curious, and that's one of the things that they say that the person currently occupying the White House lacks is curiosity. But I think you're asking some very dynamite questions. There are things that we do need to think about. I was thinking a little bit earlier today about God again. And, there was a time that God was considered to be corporal, was visible. Okay? Mm-hmm. So that gets back to, questioning the definition. And then at the council, I'm sure Walter has gone through the council meetings any number of times, and I think he's had folks to draw the circles regarding the triad, the ancient Egyptian divine triad that has been perverted to what we call the Trinity today. And in the original divine triad, we had the Father, the Son, the S-U-N, and the Mother, and representing family unit. And all of that has been changed. And as it was dismantled, and they needed to, well, first of all, it was comprised of Osiris, Isis, and Horus.
That's right.
As we know, as they dismantled it, it pretty much boiled down to the Son and the Mother. And the Father, we don't think too much about, well, we think about him as the Heavenly Father now. Because when the Greeks wanted to have their image worshipped, and they found a group of Uncle Toms among the Melkite Coptic Egyptians, then they used the attributes of our deities from that triad to do what the Greeks were asking them to do, unfortunately. So I always say, if our folks did that, and really we're suffering from it even into today with the way Christianity has been put together, then we're the very ones who should be able to fix it and expose it and admit that we had folks out here doing things that they should not have done. But anyway, in dismantling the triad, they had to get rid of the African father because they were making the images to represent white folks. That's what the Greeks were after. They wanted an image made of themselves so that they could be considered a deity or a netter, as we will call it. But they said God at the time. So, just for common language, we can say God for this moment. But at that time, we'll just say during Ephesus, the Council of Ephesus, and before the Council of Ephesus, and we know that that's 431, they were all visible beings. But when they took the sun out and gave the attributes to the image of Ptolemy, then that just more or less pushed Horus aside and what he had represented. Then they needed a mother. So they took, in order to be considered a deity in ancient Egypt, and this was a family, remember, originally, the triad. The son had to come through the body of a woman, but remember, they're creating these things now. So they took the attributes of Isis and gave you what we know today, the Virgin Mary. Now, you have a white child and a white mother. What are you going to do with this African father, Osiris? What happens to him? Well, he was relegated to invisibility. Now he's the heavenly father. He's no longer on this earth because they had to get rid of him. Okay? So that term, according to Maimonides, who was very instrumental in writing the Torah, or what we call the Old Testament, he uses the term incorporeality of God, which means invisible. God is invisible now. We can't see him. So the thing that we have to understand is all of this is contrived and constructed to serve the purpose of, those Greeks who wanted to be a part of our society, and in order to rule over us, all these things had to take place. Now, mind you, all of this took place. Many of the things that they did, they struggled for almost 1,000 years because you had those who were opposing it, who became martyrs, and you had those who were steadily pushing it. So what we end up with today is, like you said, I haven't ever seen what we'll call God. But back when our ancestors, before there was all this disruption and invasion and occupation by Greeks and later Romans, we were able to see our deities. Okay, they were not invisible. They were not incorporeal. They were corporal and they were visible. But now they have us seeking after something that we can't even see. And see, we think that's about mysticism and all these kinds of things. They put a little mystery around it, but that was to insulate the lie that was being developed and the change that they were doing to our culture. Of course, if you look at it, I would say for the most part, Europeans don't have a culture. They've had to steal and borrow even the culture, let alone the natural resources. But anyway, I think those are very good questions, and I had wanted to bring that out, that at one time so-called God was visible, and even the Pharaoh was a representation of the moral aspect of all of this, okay? And they had a misunderstanding about that as well, thinking that the people were worshiping the Pharaoh when indeed that was an elected office, and the Pharaoh was expected to represent the needs and the caring of the people. It was, yes, we had a symbolic culture, but that was the symbolism of it, not just someone being running rampant and doing things for their own gain, okay? So things have changed tremendously, and I would say that we've never really been truly understood, nor our culture or what we were about. Yes, there were certain things that they wanted to duplicate. They dressed up like we did, but they could never capture that spirit, and to this day it has not been captured, and that is a clear distinction between, I'll say it like they said, us and them, okay? The powers that be and these, the Africans in the United States today. There's a different spirit there, and that might be a broad generalization, but for the most part, it's true, and we talked about it earlier, about the compassion and the lack of compassion that we see emanating from the White House. And no, not all Europeans think alike. We know that, okay? But that's what seems to be dominating. I'm sorry? Okay. But anyway, yeah, I think those are excellent questions. And, you know, I want to comment on one other thing. I'm going to kind of leave God for a moment. But anyway, that is something we must continue to question. As I said last time we were on together, there are so many different definitions and confusion surrounding that, and just like so many other things, there's a history. There's been an evolution of what we have now and is considered God. And there was even a time in history when it was discussed whether religion should have a theological aspect to it. In other words, it's been about so many different things. God has not always necessarily been a part of religion per se. These are decisions that philosophers and scholars, so-called scholars and different ones have made. There's a book called A History of God, and it talks about the various philosophers that were involved and the things that they were proposing and how we've gotten to where we are now with much of this. And as we know, there have been many, many revisions to the Bible, and there's no the Bible. There are many, many Bibles, and we know that there are many, many interpretations of the Bible as well, and that's how we end up with so many denominations. So I just wanted to remind us of all of that, okay? So anyway, some, we know different denominations use different Bibles, and they use it, of course, to perpetuate their own doctrines and things of that nature. So there's a lot to be said about all of this out here. But we started out talking about Kaepernick, and I just wanted to share something that I did in 1992. I was a student at Roosevelt University and working for the state. So we were in a special program back in, actually we were getting ready to graduate in 92, so we had started in 70. And they were training us to be counselors is what the training was all about. But, there were some things going on at the school and that we considered discriminatory. We worked them out generally, but we did have to meet. We talked about it, and we made a decision because we knew that we would be singing the Star Spangled Banner. And we said, okay, we're going to sing our national anthem as well. So when we concluded it, we arranged it with the musician and met about it. When we concluded the so-called standard national anthem, we went immediately into lift every voice and sing, okay? And it was a beautiful scenario, but we got our point across, okay? And it was just as smooth. I would love to see him do something like that, sing the Black National Anthem, since there are so many black players in the NFL, and see how that's received. But we know, again, it was about police brutality. It wasn't really about, well, they tell me that, I'll repeat what I said earlier, that Kaepernick had read the entire Star Spangled Banner. And a few minutes ago, I did have up on my phone the lyrics to that. And sure enough, it does talk about slaves. I think it's down in about the third stanza, and it talks about wait a minute. It's interesting. And he saw all of that and said, no, I will not stand to that. It says, their blood has washed out their soul footsteps pollution. No refuge could save the hireling and slave from the terror of flight or the gloom of the grave. And the Star-Spangled Banner in triumph doeth wave over the land of the free and the home of the brave. Oh, thus be it forever when free men shall stand between their loved home and there was desolation. Anyway, it's interesting to read because it goes on to say some other things about us. But I understand that this was part of the reason he went down on the knee too. So we take a lot of things for granted because, see, they only have, for the most part, they only sing the first stanza. They don't go into the rest of it. But the rest of it is it's got some, well, racist stuff in it. And Francis Scott Key had a reputation of that sort. So when folks start doing their research and get informed, then they kind of have a different reaction. And he was curious enough to look into it further, and that was his response to it. Okay, Tarhaka. Huh?
All right.
Oh, Emma, Sister Emma, you want to say anything about that?
Well, I mean, everybody. I thought everybody knew that red stood for blood.
I heard that. You mean on the flag?
Yeah. Let me. But you see how things get in your consciousness without you thinking about it. It's like TV. TV is to program you with a certain lifestyle. You see, people don't even realize it. They think it's just they don't even think it's entertainment, but they don't know it's really programming them. I want you to notice, ever since this medicine came on, this country has gotten sicker, and they talk about cancer all the time now. It's programming you to accept it. When you hear that stuff all the time, your body say, "Oh, we don't realize how powerful words are. We really, really don't." And that's my whole point of saying, change the way you talk and think. Because whatever you think about, that's what you go bring about. Because people have been giving their powers to money, to white people, to whatever, except themselves. I keep saying that, and I'm going to keep saying it. Maybe somebody besides crazy me will get it.
Well, you know, our people, we have to hear the same thing over and over and over too, until we get it. Then we're gonna have to. It's gonna take a little bit longer for us to actually start doing something about it. And so I've been noticing that.
Our time is coming. That's because we think it's all about money, driving down the street. Then when we get all that stuff, we realize, okay, there's only a certain amount of satisfaction there. There's still something missing out of it.
Well, I got a question for Dr. Williams. Dr. Williams, I have a question for you. What happened with this Dead Sea Scrolls stuff? What was going on with that?
Well, the Dead Sea Scrolls is a 20th century European fake that they made up and created themselves to use to sustain religious ideology and theory of religion in the minds of the believer. You see? So at the height of the Dead Sea Scroll controversy, I went to the University of Chicago and to take a DSS class, a Dead Sea Scrolls class. And there was a white professor who were presenting this class. And I found out what and how they was using names to bring to the people who believe that were Dead Sea Scrolls. They use the academia, such as certain names such as Josephus, Pliny the Elder, Eusebius Pamphili, and Pharaoh Judaeus, etc., to make the case to the believer that believes in these various religions, to make the believer think that these scrolls are authentic. So the answer to your question is that from my investigation, I found that the Dead Sea Scrolls or a 20th century European faith. That's all it is, you see. And getting back to belief, like I said before, belief is very, very dangerous because belief keeps you from thinking. Belief keeps you revolving instead of evolving. Belief keeps you in a certain status of thinking, of thought. It will not allow you to grow. For instance, when I was a boy, I was told by my mother, if I'd be a good boy, Santa Claus would bring me some toys. I believed my mother, and I believed in Santa Claus. Until one day, as I was growing up, I looked in the closet before Christmas, and there were all these new toys in the closet. And I knew at that point that my mother was Santa Claus and that there was no Santa Claus. You see? So now it's very dangerous to believe in something that you know nothing about. God is a man. I've given the lectures many times, especially one in L.A. That's been taped on who is this man called God. God is a man. If you don't believe that God is not a man, every time an individual uses the term God, they say he, his, or him. That's true. Okay? My wife came to me one day and says, Walter, I'm going to tell you something about God. I said, okay, sweetheart, what is it? She says, God is an abstract idea that needs human spirituality to give it life. I mentioned before, all religions are kept alive by one's human being believing in these various religions, no matter what religion that they practice. It's your spirituality that keeps this lie alive. That's all it is. All religions are alive. One has to realize another thing, that no human, you got 7 billion humans walking this earth, no human on this walking this earth or ever that died and came through this way of life was given a religion or was born with a religion. Okay? Man created a religion to control the thinking and the actions of man. Okay? This is true. This is facts I'm talking about. Facts are stronger than argument, more profound than reasoning, more dependable than opinions. Silence this dispute, supersedes predictions, and facts always ends the argument unless you're talking to someone who does not want to know the facts. Okay? Now, the Bible and these ministers mislead the populace of the world. And they tell their believers and their parishioners that God created the heavens and the earth. God cannot create the heavens and the earth. God does not have no power to do that. God is part of creation. The question has to be asked. Getting back to some of the questions that you asked, Brother Tarhaka, but these are the questions I asked. What created the sky, the planets, the stars, the moon, the sun, air, earth, water, vegetation, animals, and humanity? What created that? I can give you the answer. The answer is, I don't know, and no human walking this earth, can give you that answer. No matter what station in life they hold, how much money they have, or how much education they may have, they cannot answer that. That's a question that cannot be answered, and I'll tell you why. The second question is to an individual is what and when was the first man and woman created that to appear on planet Earth? What created them? When were they created? How were they created? Where were they created to appear on planet Earth for the first man and the first woman? I give you that answer. That answer cannot be answered by anybody. That question cannot be answered by anybody of any race, creed, or color, no matter how much money you have, how much education you have, what station in your life you hold. The third question that cannot be answered is that when a person is deceased and he leaves this planet to make his transition, where does that deceased person's spirit go? No, don't know. You don't know where that person's spirit is gone. No person can give you that answer. And the reasons why that no human on earth, no matter who you are, what race you belong to, cannot answer those three questions is because no human on earth can tell you how they individually got here on earth as a human being. Okay? Now, you know that your mother and father, this is the closest thing you'll know, that your mother and father have sexual intercourse. And he had a sexual intercourse with a female. And between the two, the male's sperm impregnated the female's egg, thus causing the 9 months of incubation to bring forth a human being at the end of that 9 months. At the end of that 9 months, an individual, human, comes out of the mother's body and womb, connected to her umbilical cord. That umbilical cord was cut by the doctor to separate you from your mother. And that umbilical cord for 9 months gave you air, food, and water to sustain your growth for 9 months until you were in full bloom to come out of your mother's womb as a full bloom human being. Okay? But you were given life, which is indwelling inside of you at this very moment if you're alive, and that is your indwelling, divine, spiritual birthright. That's what you have. That's what you was given at the time you were born. But you were never, ever given a religion. Man created these religions for you to believe. As long as you believe this lie, then he controls your thinking. He controls your actions. Because you help do that by believing and using your spirituality that was given to you at the time of your birth, your indwelling divine spiritual birthright, which is your spirituality at the time of your birth, given to you by your mother and father, having this sexual intercourse. Now, you got 7 billion humans walking this earth as human beings, of all races, creeds, and color. Every human walking this earth has a personal God and a personal goddess. I want you to understand that. It's very important. If you want to evolve, and if you want to stay in the same position and ignore what I'm saying, then you have that perfect right. Every human on earth, of all races, creed, and color, have a personal God, and that personal God and goddess is your mother and your father. If you have caused procreation to come on this planet that we call Earth, if you are a father of a child, then you are that your child's first and only God. You are that individual's God, whether it's a female or male, okay? And her mother or his mother is their goddess, you see? So you have to understand that, see? Because they got all this stuff concocted out here for you to believe. And belief is very dangerous because it incarcerates your thinking. In other words, it limits your thinking. There are religions will give you side effects. The first side effects that the religions will give you is confusion. Why are you confused? because you don't know who you are as a human being. The second side effect, these religions would limit your thinking. Why? Because all religions are kept together by belief, and belief limits your thinking, incarcerates your mind. The third side effect is animation. At Christmas time, Easter time, they tell you that during the time of Easter, they tell you that this Jesus, the Christ, was crucified on the cross. And old Reverend in the church where these parishioners go, he dramatizes it, and they have an organ behind it, and Jesus is on Mount Calvary, and he's carrying his cross to be crucified. Okay? Now, you, the parishioner, is seeing and hearing the minister talk and bring these words out of his mouth. So therefore, when these words come out of his mouth, you begin to use your imagination, and you begin to use your mind to see a Jesus walking with his cross to be crucified. And the fourth side effect is fear. They tell you if you do not believe in the Word of God, which they talk about this Bible, this worthless Bible, and worth 2 dead flies. Okay? I encourage anybody to get that junk out of your life and begin to evolve, begin to grow. They tell you that if you do not believe in the Lord Jesus Christ and this Bible, you're going to die. That's fear. That's a fear tactic. So, therefore, it's very, very dangerous. These religions are doing to our people. And they're sitting up in these pews of these churches. It's like going back to the slave plantation. The slave plantation and the church is one and the same. When you go and investigate the slave plantation, the head of the slave plantation is this old white man they call Old Massa. In all Christian churches, the head of all Christian churches is this Jesus the Christ, another white image. Okay? Now, on all slave plantations, you have an overseer. They call him Boss Charlie, an old white man, to keep the slaves in line for old Boss Charlie, the head and owner of the slave plantation. Who took Boss Charlie's place is the Reverend C.T. Chicken Wing. He took Boss Charlie's place. Other words, he is the leader of the flock. He keeps the flock and the slaves in line. Now, who is the slaves? The slaves are the parishioners sitting in the pews of a church. They don't know who they are. They don't know anything about the religion that they believe in. The only thing that they know is about what they was told by the preacher and the Bible and all this other garbage that is connected to these various religions. That's very, very dangerous. So I'm not here to take away anyone's religion. You have the perfect right as a human being to believe in this lie if you want to. I don't have no right to tell you not to be a Christian. I don't have a right to tell no one not to be a Christian or a Muslim or black Hebrew Israelite or a black Jew or Buddhist or any type of man-made religion. I have no right to tell you that because I didn't tell you to be a Christian. I didn't tell you to be no Christian. So I have no right to tell you not to be a Christian. If you want to be a Christian, fine. But there are people out here that belong to these religions that are in high places, such as there's a documentary out called In Search of God with Morgan Freeman. In this documentary, Morgan Freeman was over in the illegitimate state of Israel. He was invited into a female rabbi's home over there. And she told him that the Bible is not a history book, but a book of ideas. There's a Jewish rabbi by the name of S. David Sperling who teaches at the Hebrew Union College in New York City, wrote a book in the year 2000, 17 years ago, called the original Torah. In the original Torah, he said that there's never been an Abraham, an Isaac, or Jacob, or Moses, or Sarah, or Gideon, or Esau, or David, or Solomon, or Joshua. And Walter Williams come along and says that 99 and 9/10 of every biblical character mentioned in the Bible never walked the earth as human beings. It's a myth. Then S. David Sperling went on to say in his book, The Original Torah, that he cannot read the Torah. He can only read the Torah allegorically because it cannot be read historically. He said, I'll repeat, that he can only read the Torah allegorically because it cannot be read historically. Then there's a Jesuit priest by the name of John L. Mackenzie who wrote a book called The Dictionary of the Bible. On page 434 in that book, talking about a Jesus the Christ, he says it's been a consensus among scholars for over 100 years that the life of Jesus cannot be written. He says the reason being is that there's no biography in existence. Then he went on to say, on the same page, he says the only place that you find any mentioning of Jesus is in the 4 apocryphal gospels, which are historically worthless, he said. Now, this is a Jesuit priest. They know the truth. They know the truth. And the truth is out here. But if you turn a blind eye to the truth, if you turn a deaf ear to the truth, then you will never find the truth because you don't want to know the truth. You don't want to hear the truth. You don't want to see the truth. You want to keep holding on to what you believe in. And what the world is telling you about your belief is they're telling you what you believe in is wrong. There's in 1999 in Chicago here, in the Chicago Sun-Times in the Metro section, they were talking about the reopening of the Oriental Museum on the University of Chicago campus, or the University of Chicago. And they had, in this article, they had 2 articles. They had one, little known facts about Egypt. They said that even though scholars may search, they can not find any evidence of a Moses in Egypt. They went on to say that 10 plagues never occurred in Egypt. They went on to say in this article that the Exodus never happened in Egypt. They went on to say in this article that slaves did not build the pyramid. So they tearing down all the beliefs. But you got to come out of that Bible, take your head out of that Bible, and begin to wake up. In other words, Christians all over the world, Muslims all over the world, anybody that embraces a religion, they wake up in the morning, every morning, asleep. They wake up asleep. Okay? I was in that group, but I never practiced religion. My mother never indoctrinated me into a religion or passed that disease and virus on to me. But I didn't know any better, but I woke up. But it took me 44 years of my life to wake up. So now, it's not ever too late for an individual to wake up. You woke up this morning, but you're still asleep. So, my wife wants me to mention something about Desiderius Erasmus. You see, if you're going to talk about the Bible, you should know when was the first Bible ever printed on planet Earth, what country was that Bible printed, and what city in that country was it printed, what alphabet was used to print that Bible, who formulated that Bible to be printed, using whose material for the formulation of that Bible, and what was the orthodox name of it. Okay? That is history that one should know if you're going to deal with the Bible. The second history about that Bible, you should know who developed and who was the first one to propound the New Testament, what we know as the New Testament. You need to know the person who brought that out, what date and when, and what purpose was it brought out. Okay? And Desiderius Erasmus was the first one to propound the New Testament. He came out with what is known as the Synoptic Gospels, or Q literature. Okay? He also created and wrote 1 and 2 Corinthians, 1 and 2 Peter, Epistle to the Romans, and Galatians, and so forth. So he had 9 books of the 28 books, so 27 books of the New Testament. You see, so this is all history. So if you're going to talk about a Bible, please know something about the Bible, but you can't not know anything historically about the Bible, but your head in the Bible. Reading about, the Bible said this. The Bible is telling you a lie. I ask Christians again this question. You talk about God. What has God done for the Africans, or the African race in America and throughout the world? What has God done for us as an African people? You go into these churches and you praise and bow down and submit yourself and disgrace yourself before this dead white man on the cross that you call your God and Savior, this Jesus the Christ. And you come out of this church after praying to him, and this God that you got to, this white God that you got to praying to, allow this white male to put us into slavery. You go into these churches and you pray to this white image on this cross and you call your God. And you come out of the churches and this same God you got to praying to allow this white male to lynch us as a people.
Get Alex, tell him to come here.
You go into these churches and you praying to the white God, and you come out of these churches after praying, and this white God has allowed this white male to Jim Crow us. Okay? You go into these churches and you pray to this white God, and this white God allowed Dylan Roof to come into Mother Emanuel's church in South Carolina and murder 9 parishioners, including the minister, and they've been praying all their life, believing in this lie that is out here to believe in. So what has God done for the African people throughout America and throughout the world? This white God allowed apartheid to be set up by these white males in South Africa.
As long as we bow down to the white male, we're not going anywhere.
As long as we bowing down, as Arnetta said, and I've always said, as long as we bow down and talk about you're a Christian and talk about this Bible, you're not going no place. You're not growing. You're revolving. Stop revolving and begin to evolve. Brother Tarhaka?
All right. Well, Dr. Williams, that was very, very well put, and I certainly appreciate you giving us that brief history about Desiderius Erasmus and Moses Maimonides, who wrote the Old Testament. And I thank you so much. It's very, very thorough, and I'd like to encourage everybody to get your books, The Historical Origins of Christianity and The Historical Origins of Islam. And we're going to be back at the end of this month discussing exactly who was it that built the Vatican. And we'll get all the historical information on that and bring that out. So make sure that you all tune back into it with us at that time. But I want to thank all of you all for being on here with me. Thank you, Brother UL and Sister Emma McGowan and Tony and the other brother and Sister Arnetta. Thank you all for being on here and helping us get that information out. We're coming down to the close of the broadcast now. And so I'm going to have to...
Can I leave my email, brother, Tarhaka?
Yeah. That's Ancient Egyptian at msn.com.
That's correct. And if a person want to email me at ancientegyptian@msn.com, put your phone number there, and I'll call you back, and we can continue our conversation with you.
Okay. Well, all right, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and close this thing down. And once again, I certainly appreciate y'all for being here.
Thank you, Brother Tarhaka.
All right. You all
Thank you,
have
brother.
a good night now.
Okay, you too now. Meow Hotel.
All right. Meow Hotel.
And the first one is producing something, repairing. I'm paraphrasing now. You produce or you repair or you clean something of value and use it for a constructive purpose. Everything you do is supposed to be constructive. That's number one. Number two, exchange views with people about ways of producing justice and or ways of ending the system of white supremacy, meaning replace the system of white supremacy with the system of justice. You exchange views with people about doing that. Now, we're doing that right now. We've been doing that for several hours now. So you can't get lost if you just follow what's on page 58, 59, and 60. Now, number three, eat and sleep correctly and only as necessary. Everybody eats and everybody sleeps all over the world. See, these are universal things. These are things that apply to people wherever they are. Eat and sleep correctly. Now, what do I mean by correctly? I mean, don't oversleep, meaning you stay in bed when you know you're not sleepy. So now you're wasting a whole lot of time. You're trying to go to sleep. But your body will tell you when to go to sleep. Okay? So trying to go to sleep, I mean, usually doesn't work. That's when you start taking all kind of pills and whatnot, and the next thing you know, you're doing more harm to yourself. See, but I don't know of anybody that walked around on the planet and never went to sleep. I hear people saying, I just can't get any sleep. It's impossible for me to go to sleep. No, it isn't. You just keep staying up. You're going to sleep sometime or another. Even if you drop dead, that's what they call a big sleep. But you are going to close your eyes at some point. And hopefully you'll wake up. Now, people might have a problem staying awake. But I don't know of anybody that ever walked around on this planet and never went to sleep. I never even heard of anybody like that. So that cliche about you can't sleep, it means you can't sleep when you need to go to sleep, maybe. On the kind of you're excited about something or worried about something. But I do believe the way the body is made, that the average person or creature or tree or something will go to sleep at some time or another. That's part of the process. So eat and sleep correctly and only as necessary. What about eating? Well, that changes from time to time, and depending on the person and where you are. Because the food, the artificial food, the plastic food that has been produced by the white supremacists is so poisonous, it's very difficult to find anything that has real nutrition. Everything is imitation, just about. I mean, they load you up with all types of artificial this and artificial that. It looks like food, tastes like food, but it's really not nourishing. But the white supremacists don't care, because they're not really crazy about living anyway. They're just crazy about existing just enough to mistreat people. As long as they can keep the motor running enough to do that, they're okay with it, for the most part. Now, number 4, sexual intercourse no more than twice a week, and very little expenditure of resources in supporting that sexual intercourse. Reason being,
We're talking about economics now, not just talking about sex. These things are listed on economics because economics is about time and energy. Sometimes people get so caught up in sexual activity, just going on and on and on and on and on, just like they do with food sometimes, and becoming overweight. You can become oversaturated with sexual activity, and this starts interfering with everything else that you should be doing. Like everything else, like what? Number one, producing, repairing, cleaning. You know, just repairing the car. You know, people engaging in sex, and the car was supposed to be gone to the repair shop 2 days ago. Now that transmission is really acting up, and it's going to cost you $2,000 more. That's because of this sexual activity. That you said, well, I'm not going to bother with it. Today is my day off, and I don't want to be bothered with these mechanics. So I'm just going to lay up here in the bed. These are practical things, but they are transforming things. They are things that will help to solve the problem of racism, I believe. If all the non-white people on this planet start doing the 4 things that are listed on page 58, 59, and 60 of the textbook for victims of white supremacy, the white supremacists will be fit to be tied. They will fly into a rage, because this will all be those 4 things changing the things that they want their victims to be doing and the way to go about doing it. It will alter everything. Just these 4 things. I believe that.